children being treated like terrorists at an interrogation camp. Lights on 24 hours a day.
Cold floors,
having aluminum
no hygiene
on top of them, no toothbrushes, no soap. 7, 8-year-olds having to take care of 2, 3-year-olds who don't have diapers or walking around in dirty diapers. This is deplorable, and I just wonder what the president and the Republican members of Congress are going to do about it. I mean, there have to be Republican senators that have children and grandchildren who actually understand that it doesn't matter what color these children's skin is. They're just as precious in God's sight as their own children and grandchildren.
Joe, every day for many, many weeks now, we read anecdotal reports, factual news reports coming from the border, coming from various detention camps. That's what they are, detention camps, holding children from 4 or 5 years of age to 12, 13 and up. But this past weekend seemed to set a new low, a horrific low. I think that you read the same piece that I did.
The New Yorker piece.
The New Yorker piece, an interview with one lawyer who was there with a team of lawyers inspecting facilities. And it is not the United States of America.
It is not the United States.
Here it is. Let's show you the details. A team of lawyers is sending a warning about the conditions inside a Border Patrol facility in Clint, Texas. The attorneys say hundreds of migrant children who have been separated from their parents or family members are being held in dirty, neglectful, and dangerous conditions. According to The New Yorker, the lawyers interviewed more than 50 children at the facilities in Clint in order to monitor government compliance with the Flores settlement, which mandates that children must be held in safe and sanitary conditions and moved out of Border Patrol custody without unnecessary delays. The conditions the lawyers found were shocking. Flu and lice outbreaks were going untreated, and children were filthy, sleeping on cold floors and taking care of each other because of the lack of attention from guards. Some of them had been in the facility for weeks. Just last week, a Justice Department lawyer went before a panel of judges to argue that the government shouldn't be required to provide detained migrant children with soap, toothbrushes, and showers at Customs and Border Protection detention facilities.
It's within everybody's common understanding that, if you don't have a toothbrush, if you don't have soap, if you don't have a blanket, it's not safe and sanitary. Well, wouldn't everybody agree to that? Do you agree to that?
Well, I think there's fair reason to find that those things may be part of safe and sanitary.
Maybe, are a part. What do you say maybe? You mean there are circumstances when a person doesn't need to have a toothbrush, toothpaste, and soap for days?
Well, I think in CBP custody, it's frequently intended to be much shorter term. So it may be that for a shorter term stay in CBP custody that some of those things may not be required.
Aren't toothbrushes and blankets and medicine, basic conditions for kids, aren't they a part of how the United States of America, the Trump administration, treats children?
Well, of course they are, Jay.
Well, the lawyer was arguing the opposite.
I can't speak to what that lawyer was saying. Yeah. It's one of the reasons we asked for more bed space.
We have money to give toothpaste and soap and blankets to these kids in this facility in El Paso County right now.
Of course we do.
So why aren't we?
My point is, it's all a part of the appropriations process. Congress needs to provide additional support to deal with the crisis at our southern border.
No, actually, Mr.
Jonathan
Vice
Lemire,
President,
that's just a lie.
You're pathetic.
Mike Pence is lying about children living in torturous positions right there. Mike Pence, who claims to be a Christian,
Chortling.
a devout Christian, and he uses it, and I'm sure he is. I'm not questioning his faith, but he uses it as a political badge of honor. Mike should read the Gospels again and see what Jesus says about the treatment of little children. You can start at Luke 17:2. Something about millstones being hung around people's neck. You've got to explain to us, what does the administration think they are gaining by allowing children to walk around with lice and walk around without diapers, and 8-year-olds having to take care of 2 or 3-year-olds. What does the administration think they gain from that?
Yeah, I mean, this is hard to watch. It's hard to listen to. And it's the New Yorker, the New York Times, my colleagues, Associated Press, the last week or so have done some extraordinary reporting about the conditions at those facilities. And as you said, at 7 and 8-year-olds suddenly being forced to take care of 5-month-olds who they don't even know. They're just but because no one else was going to do that. Soiled diapers, shirts covered with mucus.
So what does the administration think they gain by letting these children live like dogs?
I mean, they, of course, will, as you heard the vice president say, they'll dispute that categorization, but that that's what's happening. And it goes back to the president and his stance about zero tolerance at the border. He's saying that technically families are not separated anymore. But what they're doing is they're in these facilities longer than by regulations. They're only supposed to be there 2 or 3 days before they move on to HHS custody. That is not happening. People are, including children, are forced to live in squalor much longer than that. It is part of, they say, a negotiating tactic. It's pressure to get more money from the Democrats. They're trying to make some sort of congressional deal. But what it also is, it's the president looking tough. It's the president who still feels that this issue, immigration, the border, does
the president think that letting 2-year-old children walk around with lice and without diapers, does he think that helps him politically?
The president thought that child separations at the border a year ago helped him politically, so it stands to reason there's at least some degree that could here now. They certainly think
Republican senators, and I'm dead serious, I know a lot of them also men and women of faith, do they think that this is permissible with the Christian faith they claim and also being members of the United States Senate? Do they think this is permissible?
I guess I would answer it this way. None of them have spoken up about it yet.
Wow.
Mike, there was an important point in that hearing, the Ninth Circuit, that we didn't get to, where the DOJ attorney said that, well, they're supposed to be staying here for short periods of time. And then the follow-up was from the judge in the center. He said, yeah, but we're not talking about that here. They have overstayed their 72-hour stays. They're there
by a long shot.
By a long shot, and they're living in squalor. They're living like animals. They're living like dogs because of the United States of America.
Yeah, you know, there are 2 important points here, and people should wonder and ask themselves, can they think of any other past political administration, any other presidency, where the response would not have been immediate to children in need like this? And the other aspect of it is, don't ever look at our foreign aid budget and the amounts of money that we dispense to children around the world and ignore these children being held hostage.
Well, no, this is something that can be fixed today. So at this point, you can look at this somewhat as purposeful by this government.
Well,
Julia Ainsley, you're flagging that these kids are staying here a lot longer than 72 hours, the minimum, or I guess the norm that it's supposed to be. How long are they staying there in these conditions?
Well, when we got the numbers broken down last month, Mika, it looked like they were staying on average of 110 hours, so past the 72 hours. Now we're past that. Now we're talking about children staying there sometimes over a week. There was a case of a child who had the flu, was near death, had 106-degree fever, and had to stay in those conditions for over a week before he could be taken to a place where he could get better care. So what's happening is CBP is using that same argument that we saw from the vice president, that it is a matter of funding from Congress so that we can move them to better places. But that argument simply doesn't stand when you have children who are in those situations. It is a reality, and it is such a simple solution to provide them with basic care. Yes, it's true that these facilities were not built for long term. They were not built to handle children. They were built for a mainly male, single adult male population. But we're in that reality now, and we have been for some time. So the question is, why aren't there better policies in place? And especially if you think about that, CBP had deaths of migrant children in their custody for the first time in December, the first time in over a decade, and now there have been 2 other deaths, so and countless others that were very close to death. So the question is, why can't there be policies in place that move beyond this funding? If the is we have capacity problems, then you deal with how